Hi there, knife people. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I have to apologize right up front for somewhat clickbaity thumbnail and the title. I have a good reason to do that. This is not the first time I backed Knafs company on the Kickstarter. Firstly, I really like their design language, and I do think that the company stands for a lot of things that I do. But let Ben Pedersen, founder and CEO of Knafs, talk about it while I am unboxing the knives.
What is up, guys? I'm stoked to show you our latest knife. This is the Lander 5. I could talk all day about blade seals, handle materials, and I'll get to that, but let's cut right to the chase. It's 25 bucks. That's right, the Lander 5 is 25 smackaroos. It's got all that classic Lander look and feel. Use it, carry it, get it dirty, or loan it to your neighbor Larry. He's just going to lose it anyway. I've spent years volunteering with the Boy Scouts. They have no money, they can't keep track of anything, and they ruin everything. The Lander 5 is for the Boy Scouts and Larrys of the world.
I have to point out that I have zero affiliation with Ben Pedersen. This video is not coordinated with him, and I'm willing to bet he's not aware that I am one of the backers of this newly released knife. Ben and Athena Pedersen stand for environmental preservation, as evidenced by this biodegradable recycled cardboard packaging on all their products. I'm with them on that one. Yeah, Ben is an avid outdoorsman, and he promotes this adventurous and healthy lifestyle amongst the youngest, which is a rare thing nowadays. Secondly, I really enjoy watching Knafs' channel, not only because they have very interesting knife-related content, they also disclose certain things about the knife industry that no other YouTuber knows about or dares to touch with a long pole. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, is the transition through which the company is going as we speak. This year, in 2025, they started producing some of their knives in-house, which is in Utah, USA. Maybe it has something to do with the current trade situation with China. Maybe it's pure patriotism. Maybe Ben got tired of dealing with American knife industry's inability to process his orders in a timely manner or to deliver knife components that meet his highest standards. I don't have a first-hand knowledge of any of these things, but from watching his channel, I know that in 2025 they bought a CNC machine that enables them to make blades in the house. They also just got another mill that will help them process G10 and micarta handles. And nobody does that just to make one or two knives and stop. They're expanding here in the United States, and that's why I back their new products on the Kickstarter, and I buy them also from their website. The money is going right back into the business, and this business is here in the United States. It feeds American families. Let's get into Lander 5. If the knife looks somewhat familiar to you, you're probably thinking of Hinder's slicer grind and Strider's oblong thumb hole and a dual grip handle ergonomics. Are they the only ones who base their designs in a traditional American styling? No. Let's take a look at very popular knives that came out in the recent years. So popular, in fact, they need not be introduced. But if you don't recognize some of them, feel free to ask a question in the comments. I guarantee either myself or one of my viewers will tell you exactly what they are. Let's talk about the action. So this is more of a deliberate and slow opening than a flicker, at least in my hand, especially the darker one, because the one that's in the white I can actually flick open. So we'll call it a Sebenza-esque action. Here's a Sebenza that is designed to do a slow roll, although I was able to tune mine to do this, and if anybody says you need to wait like 6 years for it to wear out and you can't do it yourself, they're lying to you. Let me know in the comment if you would like to see a video on how I tuned the Sebenza. But I digress. So what I like about both of these knives is a very smooth closing action. So there's no double clutch. When you depress this lock bar to close the blade, there's this no middle stop. It actually goes into closing mode right away. The etalon or standard for smooth opening and closing is Oz Machine Rosie or Roosevelt. So very flickety action, and no double clutch of any kind, very smooth closing. These run on some kind of washers in the pivot. They will not drop shot unless I can adjust them. We will try that in a little bit. And another reason they're not easily flicked open is the whole shape kind of forces your thumb in the initial direction, and then it kind of gets jammed in that corner of the opening here and actually starts preventing it from flicking open. And that's what the rose is famous for, that it just somehow directs your thumb to follow the cutout, and that also launches the blade. So you will not get a $1,000 feeling on a $30 knife, but you will get a $500 feeling on it. And a hardness test always starts with a validation of my Rockwell tester's calibration using this independently certified, serialized, and calibrated test block. The block is calibrated to be at 61.99. You can call it exactly 62 HRC. And this is my new light arrangement here. And you may notice an improvement in how I light up the dial of the Rockwell tester. I am using my Wurkkos HD01 Pro flashlight, an Amazon find that's been with me on every project that I've worked on in the machine shops, weld shops, and occasional paint booth. If it's your first time watching a Rockwell test, first, we apply minor load of 50 kilograms until the small arrow in the center of the dial points directly at the red dot, preferably toward the center of it. Rotate the dial to align its center with a large hand. Then you release the major load, which is 150 kilos. That presses material into the diamond probe, and you get the result. In this case, it's 62 smack on. We're right in calibration. On the dial, the outer black set of numbers represents Rockwell scale C. We will first test the blade that doesn't have any coating. And by the way, the red set of numbers on the scale represents Rockwell B scale, reserved for much softer metals like aluminum, brass, bronze, etc. Same procedure here. I'm accelerating the video 2x for your convenience. It's going to be one continuous segment, and we're paying attention to the outer numbers right there. The first poke is 58 HRC. For 8CR13 MOV steel, anything over 57 is great. I call it the equilibrium range, where edge retention and toughness are well balanced. In other words, you can go harder for more edge retention, but then the blade might become brittle. 58.5 HRC. Or you can temper the steel to be a little softer and more ductile. This way it will not snap, but then you'll be sacrificing some of the wear resistance or edge retention. For a complex alloy stainless steel, the heat treat regime is very strict. 58.5 HRC on this poke. So this particular blade is somewhere between 58 and 58.5 HRC. Let's see what the acid wash blade comes at. I believe this is the type of finish that's on the darker blade. Zeroing it out, ready for the first poke. This finishing process is not heat intensive, which is good news. Aha, we got 59.2 HRC. And that's why after DLC or diamond-like coating, acid wash is my favorite finish. My least favorite is Cerakote because it requires 250 to 350 Fahrenheit temperature to cure. About our second poke, it's 59.5. A lot of stainless steels actually temper at 350 to 450 Fahrenheit, and unless the manufacturer plans the process really well, Cerakoting becomes a tertiary heat treat cycle, leading to a much softer blade, not to mention some discrepancy in the steel structure formation. Not a problem here at 59.3 HRC for a range of 59 to 59.5. Excellent heat treat. In fact, it's so good for 8CR13 MOV that I decided to recheck the calibration just to make sure that my device did not go out of whack while we were testing. I didn't mention the way the Rockwell tester measures the hardness is by comparing the depth of initial indentation when I lined it up with a red dot to the final indentation. And I got 61.9. To the moon! Just to have a little more fun, I reassemble the knives thusly. Did you notice? One is tuxedo, one is reverse tuxedo, because I used a darkened handle with in the white blade and a darkened blade within the white handle. I kind of don't remember what is tuxedo and what is reverse tuxedo. I think this might be maybe this is tuxedo and this is reverse. I don't know. Let me know, guys, if you're an expert. Anyway, and since we are very satisfied now with the blade heat treatment, I thought, why not give it a custom touch and give you, my viewers, a reason to buy two instead of one and play with them like that, make it unique and personalized, and it goes very well with the spirit of Knafs company. Surprised they haven't done that or haven't offered that option. But it wasn't all vanity. I'll explain why I'm holding this blackening compound in hand, but the reason for all this was not vanity. Because all the parts fit identically between the two versions, that tells me that, you know, even though the batches are different, and at some point in production these two batches were separated, their dimensioning and tolerancing, the precision of how they make these handles and the blades is decent. Very, I'm afraid to use the word perfect because nothing is perfect, but it's as near perfect as I've seen, because the components interchange. I've changed all of them. So there's a black spacers, a black stop pin, black pivot, dark blade, and darkened pocket clip and a blanking plate. So everything was 100% interchangeable. And the blades centered perfectly. Let me show you these two side by side. Perfect centering, perfect fit, and the function is as before. Actually, maybe some improvement actually because of adjusting the pivot. Don't know for sure. And the reason I have this aluminum black, does a really good job in bluing carbon steel. I'm trying to give you an example, right? Like right here, you can see that it's tarnishing black, this tip. See how effective this solution is? Yeah. So I wanted to make sure how stainless or not the handle. So I'm using the same exact compound here. And I'm going to flip it over and test the pocket clip. Now, if it was less than stainless, if it was like D2, for example, near stainless, it would darken because D2 will start tarnishing dark gray if I do that. It shouldn't affect the blade much at all because it's made out of 8CR13 MOV, which has 0.7, 0.8% carbon and 13 to 14.5% chromium in its composition, 12% chromium being a required minimum for a stainless steel to be designated as such. As you can see, none of the components were affected. Let's wipe it all down and call this knife quite stainless. It's not your Salt series by Spartaco, but it's going to be pretty decent in a wet environment. And that means that Ben Pedersen, an avid outdoorsman, achieved the goal of creating a good outdoor knife. But we still don't know if the knife will survive the expected abuse from its intended owners, the Boy Scouts. Here I'm demonstrating the straightness of the blade. I call it the boinking test, in which by sight, feel, and sound I can determine the blades are absolutely flat. And now I am not so gently placing the blade into this wooden block, about 3/8 of an inch deep, and the protractor behind the knives is set to 15-degree angle. On the left you see I started the bending test. I bend the knife to 15 degrees, which is quite severe bend. Even the military knives are tested to 9 degrees. The shot on the left is a little bit ahead. So after I'm finished bending it, I am twisting it as hard as I can, 3 times in each direction. The first part of this exercise tests the blade's flexural strength, and the second part tests the resilience of the knife as a system, where every component is subjected to immense amount of strain. I did not detect any permanent deformation in the blade, and that's why I put it on the block for a second round of boinking tests. There was no deformation or functionality decrease. The knives are good to go. And now that we experimentally proven to ourselves that these knives not only engineered to the highest engineering and manufacturing standards with fully interchangeable parts without any detriment to their function, and the fact that the blades are heat treated in a perfect for 8CR13 MOV steel range, 58 to 60, we could stop right here. But these knives have an additional superpower, so if you're interested to see what that is, stick around for another few minutes. How many times have you heard from so-called experts that pocket knives are not intended for batoning or splitting wood? There is a wrong and a right way to do anything, and here is the wrong way. I was correct in unlocking the blade. That's how you should baton with a pocket knife. But the way I was holding it was incorrect. Placing the index finger into this immense finger choil stabilizes the whole arrangement. Let me show you from the other side. With your index finger in the choil, there's no way for the blade to close onto your hand accidentally. And because the blade is unlocked, there is no stress on the pivot or the stop pin, which protects the internals of the knife from being damaged. Now I'm feathering. Unfortunately, I picked treated wood to do that onto, and it's going sort of mediocrely. I'm sure if you were feathering a softer natural wood, it would go a lot smoother. But I have to say, the knife is very comfortable. Again, I'm in a full grip with my index finger in the finger choil, and I have no issues except for maybe pocket clip in creating a little bit of a hot point near my pinky finger on the inside of my hand. The blade is pretty sharp from the factory. I always say you can get any blade sharper than it comes from the factory. I don't care if it's a $30 knife or a $300 knife. I'm yet to find the perfect edge. I actually filmed a whole segment on how to get this knife crazy sharp with materials available to the Boy Scouts in the field. And the fun part of this was using this Knafs handheld sharpening device with a Knafs blade and a Knafs Strop that I purchased again to support the company. I haven't gotten much chance to use it, but tonight I had. And if you're interested in this video, I have my own little tricks to do it right. Let me know in the comments and I'll publish it shortly.